Humans inherently want to put labels on things and put them in metaphorical boxes. We as a species are naturally afraid of the unknown, which is pretty useful knowledge to anyone in the horror business. We are afraid of things we don't know the thought process of or motives of, which is something that the mangaka Ito Junji knows all too well with his depictions of people and creatures that don't fall under human understanding. In my pursuit to understand his works, one character in particular really stood out to me, Souichi Tsujii from Souichi's Diary of Curses. He originally stood out because of how funny I found this character to be in the anime with his goofy reactions and voice, but when I started to read the manga, I became interested in him in a psychological way. Just why is he the way that he is? What's hiding underneath that crooked smile of his? Well, that's what I'm here to discuss today, the psychology of Souichi Tsujii. Before I started recording this video, I listed out every single mental illness and disorder that I deemed considerable to Souichi that I'd like to narrow down in the video. Let's start with what's canon. Souichi has been confirmed to be anemic, by his brother stating that the reason he's always having nails in his mouth is to make up for it. In the first chapter, he's also shown to drink blood, so he can give anemia an easy checkmark. Next one down the list would be OCD. OCD in children, according to my research, seems to take place by intrusive and unwanted thoughts, images, or urges that occur over and over again and feel outside the child's control. These obsessions are unpleasant for the child and typically cause a lot of worry, anxiety, and distress. Throughout the series, it appears that Souichi is in full control and doesn't feel nervous or scared by his own actions. He has not been shown to have any obsessions or fixations besides maybe curses and annoying other people. He's never shown distress by his own feelings, so I think it's pretty safe to rule out OCD. Now, there are 4 different types of main personality disorders, which are as follows: paranoid, histrionic, narcissistic, and antisocial. Let's start from the top and work our way to the bottom of personality disorders. Paranoid personality disorder symptoms include paranoia, obviously, mistrust, and general constant unease. He's not shown trusting anyone since the age of 4, and he actively acts on suspicions of others. He's shown locking himself up in his room or closets and often generally avoiding other people. It's said he does this because he's shy, but there could also be some fear of other people, so I'll give this one a check mark. Most fictional characters can be diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder, which entails overly dramatized reactions and over-exaggerations. I'm gonna say yes to this one purely because that's how manga is written. Over-exaggerations for comedic effect or for story progression. Souichi is a clear candidate for narcissistic personality disorder. He views himself as a figure above others and occasionally refers himself to as my esteemed self in his diary, and constantly talks about how great and powerful he is. He takes great offense to anyone who opposes his greatness by cursing or bad-mouthing them, so this is a really easy check. Antisocial personality disorder doesn't have the definition you probably think it does. Antisocial personality disorder symptoms include disregard of right and wrong, persistent lying or deceit to exploit others, being callous, cynical, and disrespectful of others, using charm or wit to manipulate others for personal gain or for personal pleasure, arrogance, a sense of superiority, and being extremely opinionated, hostility, lack of empathy, unnecessary risk-taking, poor and abusive relationships, etc. Now, who does that sound like to you? If I was asked to diagnose him with any one thing, it would be this. All of the signs are there. Alfred Adler in his theory that a superiority complex can be a mechanism to cover for one's own inferiority, which would make a lot of sense in Souichi's case. She is a lonely social outcast with a bad social life and a home life. He's shown to be jealous of the popular and pretty boys, so he casts curses on them to get his own version of revenge. He convinces himself that the girls in his class are interested in him, even though they outright state their disgust for him. I do truly believe he's trying to cover up the truth with a false sense of superiority. Like with the 4 main types of personality disorders, there are 4 main types of schizophrenia: Catonic, Hebephrenic, paranoid, and simple. I don't believe he has Catonic schizophrenia, because that's the type of schizophrenia where you alternate between periods of catonic immobility and wild excitement. He's never shown to be still for long periods of time or go mute, so we can safely rule this one out. Hebephrenic schizophrenia is the one most shown in the media. This is the type of schizophrenia that causes you to have hallucinations and lose your touch with reality. It could cause a person to appear apathetic and detached from reality half the time, and the other to be happy and laughing. This type of mental disorder causes the person to need excessive care and attention. Souichi does not display any of these traits. It could be theorized that everything is just in his mind and the curses aren't even real, but that's a bit too meta for this video. Originally, I did think that Souichi could have paranoid schizophrenia. When I looked into it more, it's not what I thought it was. This is when someone has strong beliefs that are not true, like, I'm in the army and I need to go, or I am the embodiment of Mr. Spock. This caused the person to have many conspiracies and want to share them and be lost in their fabricated beliefs. So, it's a no to this one, unless, as stated in Hebephrenic, you want to theorize that everything is taking place in his head. Simple schizophrenia seems definitely the most likely out of the four. It causes the person to be dirty with an unkempt appearance, and it suddenly causes bursts of joy and laughter in the person, even though they'd be saying something like, my bones are melting, or I'm dying, please help me. They are also more nonsensical and odd. I think Souichi fits this pretty well for the most part, so I think he has a less severe case of simple schizophrenia. So there are a lot of people who toss around the terms psychopath and sociopath willy-nilly without knowing the difference. I'll start by saying that psychopathy is something that you're born with, but sociopathy is something that develops with life experience. Since he's shown to care about his grandmother when he's young, and later does care a little bit about his cousin, I can't classify him as a true psychopath. But what about a sociopath? Well, sociopaths are associated with a quick temper, and some feelings of empathy, guilt, or stress, though those are pretty shallow. Sociopathy is also associated with erratic behavior, trouble keeping friends or animals, superficial charm, constant lying, and, of course, grandiose sense of self. I'd say this is very strong with him, seeing as he tried to get his classmates to start rumors about how great he was by saying he had a famous cousin, helped the old lady cross the street, etc., etc. He did everything for his own personal benefit and for some attention, so I'd say this is a pretty clear sign of sociopathy, so I'll give sociopathy a checkmark and psychopathy an X. Now, this next one will be more theory-based than canon-based, so just bear with me. I honestly think that Souichi has some level of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. When he grew up, only one real person looked after him, and that was his grandmother. Not to say that his parents didn't love him, though. He was avoided by his siblings and other kids because of the way he looked and the kind of creepy vibe he gave off. He also sort of had a brother. Before he was born, his grandmother prophesied that her daughter would give birth to twins, and when there was just one child born, that child being Souichi, she kept saying that it was another child, and for the entirety of his life kept saying like, oh yeah, there's your brother. Are you playing with your brother? And stuff like that. Souichi grew up talking to this invisible brother, and believes in his existence to the present day, but as we see in Volume 5, Chapter 6, his grandmother left this brother and never returned. I believe this was a traumatic incident that set him on the path of loneliness and isolation, because now he truly was alone and didn't know how to get along with other people because they would avoid him. In private, I think he'd probably be shown to be sad and stressed out about his past to some degree. So on the list, I'm going to put a little star next to PTSD, because it's kind of debatable, and I'll let the viewer come to their own conclusions. The final point I have is about social anxiety, which also ties in a bit with my last point. After being left alone with no social skills, I think he started to repel people away in fears of being hurt by them. He's shown to look at his family longingly, wanting to be a part of what they're doing, whether it's watching TV or playing card games. But he doesn't want these feelings, so he covers them up with a false sense of hate and saying how they're annoying, how they should be cursed. But he never curses them. He's also shown to lock himself up in his room and not eat with his family or see any guests. At the end of the day, he's just a scared kid. He doesn't know what he's doing and he's terrified. So maybe the real monster in this story isn't Souichi himself, but the mental illness lying in his mind. Well, thank you to everyone who's gotten this far in the video. This was a pretty dark video for what my channel is pretty much used to, which is just fluffy top 10 lists and anime stuff, and now we're talking about mental health. Yay. But I do hope people actually enjoyed this video. I put a lot of effort into it, and the script that I'm using was about an essay's length, so I was hoping for it to be a bit of a longer video, but, you know, whatever. If you guys like this type of video, please let me know, and I can analyze, like, creatures, characters, pretty much whatever. I really like analyzing and picking apart characters and different things, and this video was a whole a lot of fun for me, even though it was incredibly dark, and I feel so bad for my boy Souichi, like, oh, I stand one crazy 12-year-old. But yeah, that's everything that I have for this video. Hopefully the next time I upload won't take another 6 months or so. Hopefully I'll be back with some more fluffy content or darker content depending on how well this video does. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video, however long that'll be.